Well, Smiles from Black Film and TV, talking to director Margaret Brown regarding the film, the documentary Descendants, which is currently playing at the Sundance Film Festival. Let's talk about how this structure came about in terms of telling the story, and how long was the research before you put it all together?
I would say the research started like 15 years ago. I made another film called Order of Myths that was about segregated Mardi Gras in Mobile, Alabama, where I grew up. And the white Mardi Gras queen, the year I was filming, happened to be from the Mayer family, which is the family that brought the last slave ship on a bet from Benin to Alabama in 1859. And kind of the way it was talked about back then, I didn't really learn about it like growing up in Alabama, but I remember hearing about it almost kind of as like a myth or a rumor or something that may or may not be true. And you know, later to find out making this movie that there's like in the genealogy museum in the public library in Mobile, there's a record of the captain. So, you know, it's a history that is verified, but that's sort of, I guess, not the way I first heard about it, if my memory serves me correctly. And I was shooting the film. I shot through Mardi Gras. In Mobile, there's a Black Mardi Gras celebration and a white Mardi Gras celebration. And the Black Mardi Gras queen that year was a woman named Stephanie Lucas. And, you know, I filmed her for 5 months or so. And after Mardi Gras, the cinematographer and I was doing sound. We were with her grandparents and at their kitchen, no, at their dining room table, and Stephanie was there. And her grandfather kind of casually mentions that he is descended from the Clotilda. And we were just like, what? I looked at the cinematographer and we didn't, neither of us said anything. We just looked at each other and we were like, oh my God, you know? And then Stephanie says, yeah, my people were on her people's ship. And to think about it 15 years later, I realized there was probably a lot of shame around this. And, you know, in the movie, we see the descendants really, you know, they're very, they go through a transformation. Some of them, not all of them. Some of them have always been like knowing this history, proud of this history. Others talk about the shame that could possibly involved in having a history like this. And, you know, that's kind of how the film started. It started with this other film I made that went to Sundance. And, you know, when I started hearing about that, they thought they found the Clotilda in 2018, which actually did not end up being the Clotilda. They actually found the real ship like a year and a half later. I remember thinking like, oh, this is, I think I could tell this story. I wasn't ever going to make another film about this again, but I knew from talking to other people who were covering the story in the print media, I knew that like the Mayer family hadn't talked to anybody. And I thought, well, shoot, like Helen Mayer went to Sundance with me, traveled to other countries in Europe with me. Like, I know she'll talk about it because I saw her talk about it to children in Scotland about being from a family who brought the last slave ship to America. So I thought, well, I have this access no one else has, you know. But then she would never talk to me, and that family never talked to me. And so I was wrong. And but that's sort of how the film started.
You know, whenever anybody does a documentary, you know, there's different totally from a narrative feature. You know, you don't know when the end game is. You know, and you're saying 15 years, and you know, you have to obviously eat and do other projects because you know where there's a start and a finish. Was it ever taxing? You know, obviously, knowing, did you even know how you were going to complete it? You know, with all the research you've gathered, with the people you've interviewed, and then like, how do you put that together in a 2-hour piece? You know, because then you have to have the one hell of an editor.
Oh, we had two amazing editors, Michael Block and Jeffrey Richmond. Yeah, I mean, this is very much a collaborative effort in front of and behind the camera. Like, I've never worked on a film where I felt so much part of like a group of people who are really committed to amplifying the story. And I mean, our crew was really inspired by who we were filming and the trust they put in us. So I felt like it was very much a collective telling because, you know, coming from my perspective as a white filmmaker, thinking I was going to be telling a story of my hometown, and to find out that mostly, for the most part, only Black people were courageous enough to talk about it. It is a really tricky position to be in. That's not, I didn't, a lot of my films are sort of about like white anthropology, like looking at the construction of whiteness. And so I was kind of uncomfortable in this space. I didn't feel like, I had a lot of like sleepless nights thinking about like, ugh, like me, you know, like, I don't know. But I am glad I went through with it and did it, but I still have questions about it. I still think about, I mean, I do think that white people in America need to like look at this like head on, but this is very much the story of the people of Africatown. And so, I mean, like I said, it was very collaborative. Like I could talk for a very long time about like how we decided on certain things as a group. Like I involve the people in the movie in my creative process in a very deep way. There's a lot of trust involved. And, but if you want to ask me about that, I can talk about that too, but that wasn't really your question.
Was there resistance, obviously, you know, because as a white woman putting this together, people wanting to talk to you and share what they've had, you know, had there been anybody else approaching it? And I think as I was doing my research, now all of a sudden in the last few years, people are now going to be talking about this, even though yours is at Sundance, but I see this projects here and there coming up.
Yeah. Oh, this is just a drop in the bucket of all the stuff that's going to be told around this story. I mean, this is a story that's being told a long time before me, and it will definitely continue. I mean, Terrence Spivey, a playwright, is collaborating right now on a play with the Descendants in Africatown. There's going to be like the first installment of it on February 12th in Mobile. I think it's already sold out. So I think like, you know, this is a story that's really still unfolding. And in terms of your question about when do you start, when do you end, it was really hard to end this film. I actually, at a certain point, we were like, this is a real decision point for the community and the city. And we kind of want to end it in a very open-ended way, because there's really no way to have like a monolithic answer to what you do about all these questions, in my mind, at least as an artist. Like the question of justice Kamal brings up, the question of reparations, the question of like, you know, how do you grapple with this like deep trauma of our country? Like there's no one answer, simple answer. So I felt like the best way to end the movie would be a hearkening back to Zora Neale Hurston's footage, a glimpse forward to the future through the dreams of the characters, but also a lot of questions like, you know, the city and the community is in this place of like, well, what are we going to do? We have this opportunity now to tell this story. Who gets to tell the story? Like Vita says, I don't want to be a part of it. I want to be it. Like, how much are they going to get to be it? You know, how much are they going to have ownership financially of what happens to the community, you know, of how the story gets told? Like, I wanted to end it in a place where like the audience walks away, like Anderson Flynn says in the film, the community leader, he goes to EJI in Montgomery and he says, these people, they're gonna go to the lynching museum, they're gonna look, they're gonna have this feeling, I'm paraphrasing him, but they're gonna like be moved for a moment and they're gonna forget about it. What are they gonna do when they leave, you know? So it's like a real call to action, I think too. Well, what are you gonna do when you leave? Like, you know, does this story have an impact on how you view history? Like, who gets to tell what history? And what are you going to do now that you know that? You know, you can't unlearn it.
How did you get Questlove to come on board? Obviously, he's had his film last year, Summer of Love. He also had to do his research, but then to find out that he's also Descendant. Yeah. You know, was that something that like you found online, or like you went after him, or something that came about?
My friend works with my like a collaborator of mine works with Henry Louis Gates, and you know, she told me, I mean, she was like, you should get him involved, and sent me that the Finding Your Roots episode he's on, where he gets so emotional. And so we talked to him and his management kind of for a long time, but there came a very specific point when I felt like was the right time to approach him. It was kind of like right after Summer of Soul came out, and also just very coincidentally, totally unrelated. my friend who was working on his movie said, hey, I'm in the Academy, and he was like, will you introduce, will you like do his like first screening that's not virtual or something? So I did the Q&A with him, and that's how I met him the first time in person. And then 215 got involved, his company, with Black Thought, Sean G and Zara Zolman. And I mean, they're like the best partners. Like, he's been so supportive, and we've kind of worked, like Ray Angry, he's kind of in the Extended Roots family, is one of the composers on the film. And yeah, he's, I don't know, I cannot say enough good things about their involvement in the process, and just getting the word out, and just speaking so powerfully about his connection to this place. He's still learning about, I mean, I've seen him like kind of witness his connecting to the community, and it's pretty beautiful.
Before I let you go, I want to mention two things. The first thing is, I don't know if you watch enough TV, there was an episode on Law and Order: Criminal Intent.
I don't watch Law and Order.
It's an old show. It's part of the Law and Order franchise. An episode where it was regarding the raising of a boat, similar to of a slave ship, and which one of the white characters did not want it to raise because it would put something on it, because it was part of his family legacy.
No way. I have to see it. I wonder, no one's ever mentioned that to me.
Yeah, I'm surprised you did not know that. It's like,
no, Kamal's never told it to me. I mean,
it's an episode, Law and Order: Criminal Intent. I'll find it and give it to the publicist and look for it. Yes, regarding that. And before I let you go, briefly, what did you learn as a process as a filmmaker in taking and doing this project that you can take on to your next project?
That I don't want to work this collaboratively again. It was such a gift to have a group of people. Like, it really changed how I work. It was such a deep process, and that kind of work is so meaningful. Like, that kind of deep collaboration, like, it just totally changed my life. And I'm like about to cry talking about it. Like, it was just like, I mean, we would shoot, and I would talk to the characters who were in the movie, who are now my friends, and about how they felt. And then we would talk about it to the sound guy, what he recorded, what he thought. It was so collaborative. The cinematographers, who I'm used to that kind of tight collaboration, in the editor. But like, I mean, people were so, like, our crew was so inspired by this story that it was like, everyone just got like, it didn't feel like I was directing. It felt like I was like part of this collective, and I just don't want to ever not like want to work that way again, because it's what makes life worth living. Like, that kind of feeling of like people working for something that's like so much bigger than they are, because like often when you're making this film, you feel like an ant in a hurricane. You feel like, how can I contribute to something that's like the pain of this country? Like, what am I even doing? Like, why? Like, it's like so much trauma, and the weight of it. And like, how dare you even like comment on it, as a white person? And then on the other hand, as a white person, it's your fucking responsibility. So it's like very deep work. But I feel so connected to the people who are in the movie, and so connected to the people that made it with me. And I think like, shit, that is worth everything. That's like, it's like, that is the reward. It's like that kind of deep connection and like knowledge about how to be a person in the world,
Did a great job. It was nice talking to you. Obviously, let's see where this movie goes. There should be more of it. Obviously, there's going to be different projects, but you got this at Sundance, where a lot more eyes were on it. So wherever you are, stay safe, and I'll get that information for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Take care.